Hi. Before we get into the show, I wanted to take a moment and say thank you. Whether you're a first-time listener or you followed us for a while now, we know you have choices, and we know it's a big world of social media. So thank you for making us a part of your day. Let's get into the show.
Well, let me tell you a little story. The reason why I decided that I'm never going to switch broadheads again is because I have arrows for hog hunting. Let me rephrase that. I had arrows for hog hunting, and I have arrows for deer hunting or, bigger game,
Right. In today's episode, it'll be part 2 of our discussion with David Villarreal, my good friend and hunting partner. In this episode, David's going to talk to us about why his broadhead selection came to be, how he missed a chance at a really nice aoudad, and then a really cool buck story he has from a previous hunt during the rut in the Midwest. Stay tuned.
You know how we are. When you shoot a hog, you don't want. I didn't want to spend my expensive stuff on hogs, because
You don't want to lose a $50 arrow on a
Yeah, exactly. So I
nasty
built
hog.
arrows just for hog hunting.
Yeah.
Fixed blade, 2-inch cut in the front. It's like that's fine. So my brother-in-law has a ranch in Del Rio, and went aoudad hunting. And I've never had an opportunity to kill an aoudad. I've killed some ram, stuff like that, but never an aoudad. And I said, yeah, let's go. So the setup that he has at his ranch is all for rifle. Mm-hmm. It's just that's all everybody does is rifle hunt. My brother-in-law does some bow hunting, but not as much. Mm-hmm. So he put a pop-up blind in one section of his property that was like 35 yards from the feeder. The day before that, his brother, he owns a property with his brothers. So the day before, the brothers show up, and they don't know that I'm bow hunting, because I don't really know them that well. And they don't know me that well. So they go out and they fill the feeders, and they throw corn behind the feeders for rifle hunting, which, that's an extra 40 yards away from the feeder. So I'm at 75 yards where they're throwing corn, and I'm hunting off a ground blind pop-up. So there's brush, and I can't see over that. So I was like, oh, we didn't know you were bow hunters. And then I said, no, don't worry about it. The feeder goes off, I'm good. So his brother was rifle hunting, and we're in the same spot. And there's 2 feeders. It's a Y. There's 2 feeders from he's got a 20-foot elevated box blind. Mm-hmm. And there's 2 feeders, and one feeder's about 90 yards, and the other one's about 110. Right? And he's like, listen, I'm going to go hunt up there. You're not shooting whitetail? I said, I'm not shooting whitetail. I'm shooting pigs and audads. He goes, perfect. I don't want to shoot pigs. I don't want to shoot audads. I'm just here for whitetail. I says, well, you go hunt up there. Whitetail comes out. It's all yours. Aoudad comes out. And pigs, we'll shoot that. My brother-in-law took his bow. Just let's both shoot hogs, man.
Right.
So I got 3 arrows for hogs and 2 arrows for audads, right? So we go hunting. We're sitting there waiting. His brother sends a text. Hey, there's some pigs coming. All right. Grab the arrow for my pigs. Knock it on and wait, and here comes a pig, and boom, I smoke one. Right? They take off. So I'm like, all right, so just, don't worry about that one. We'll go recover it later or whatever. He goes, hey, more pigs are coming. They're coming again. Grab another arrow, knock it on. Pigs come up, boom, smoke another one, right? That was it for that day. That was an evening hunt. So we go on an evening hunt, and we're done or whatever. We'll go recover one. The other one, couldn't find it. Yeah. Those it's very rocky, and there's a lot of steep hills down there. So like he ran, we followed the trail to a certain area, and then it was just drops down. So it's like, I ain't going down there.
Right.
It's way down there, a steep cliff and stuff. So that's fine. We recovered the other one, went and skinned them, quartered up, took the back straps out or whatever. Next morning, same thing. It's like, you shoot audads and pigs, I shoot whitetail. Perfect. We go out there and we sit down, and he sends a text message. And the service over there is really bad.
Yeah.
Sends the text message. He goes, hey, there's pigs coming. There's pigs coming. Brother-in-law picks up the phone. Hey, there's pigs coming. All right. I grab an arrow from a pig, and I brought enough arrows to, shoot pigs. And the other ones were broke, and they tore up. They went through, and there's rocks everywhere. It just tore them up.
Yeah.
So I grab another pig arrow. Here come the pigs. Another one. Boom! I shoot and I missed. Right, small little pig. I said, I'm gonna shoot that little small pig in the head. Missed. Oops. Missed. All right, whatever. They took off running. So he's like, I think the pigs are coming back. I think the pigs are coming back. So I grab another arrow and I knock it and I'm waiting, and no pigs show up. So we're talking, and then his brother sees an aoudad coming. Says, hey, there's an aoudad coming. So all this is on video. He's filming with his phone up 20 feet up, another 50, 60 yards back behind us.
Right.
And he's got aoudad is coming. So he starts filming. So he did the same thing with my pigs when I shot the pigs. I have them on camera, me shooting them and stuff from the blind. So we don't get the text because of the service.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there talking, and all of a sudden, aoudad, and I grab my bow, and I'm like, oh man, it just, the broadhead that I have for pigs makes a hole this big.
Right.
I said, I'm not going to shoot an aoudad with this arrow. I don't want to just injure it. I want to kill it.
Right.
And if I just injure it and it takes off, it could go 200 yards before we even find it, if at that. So I'm trying to switch arrows to the aoudad arrow, right?
To the good arrow.
Yeah, to the good arrow. So when I finally got into it, he spooked and took off.
Dang.
It was a beautiful aoudad, right? I was like,
yeah.
Well, you should. My brother was like, you should have just shot it with that one. I was like, no, I don't want to just injure it. I want to make sure if I'm shooting it, it's gonna die.
Yeah.
If it dies somewhere, God knows where. I mean, it's a waste. I don't want to do that, or just injure it.
Right.
And I know with that pig setup, it would have just injured. Because they're just not big enough for that big of an animal. And I know that aoudads are tough. They're tough skinned and stuff like that. So I was like, no, that's all right. It was my mistake.
Yeah.
I said, so from that point forward, I said, never again. I said, I'm shooting these arrows for, I don't care what comes out. A squirrel comes out, and I'm going to shoot a squirrel.
No prejudice.
I'm shooting it with that arrow. I mean, so I decided from there on, I said, I'm never going to miss an opportunity like that again by trying to switch arrows and this and that. So now I just shoot the same arrows that I hunt with.
Yeah.
Everything, I don't care what I'm hunting, I'm shooting at that. And that's what I shot that pig at, some arrows, and and I had success with that. So
hey, man, if it works, don't fix it.
Yeah, don't try to fix it if it's even broken.
So for the people that are listening to this, they may not know, like Del Rio is in Southwest Texas, right?
Southwest Texas.
How far is it from the border?
Oh my goodness. 20 miles, maybe a little less.
And the terrain there is
it's just rocks and cliffs, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's rocks. Yeah. I mean, you can't dig anything in there. So you shoot something and the arrow goes through or you miss it, the arrow's gonna break no matter what. They're breaking.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about Texas. I grew up in Mississippi and Alabama, and it is, some of it's pine country, red dirt. Some of it's like black prairie, a lot of ag, similar to Indiana.
Yeah.
And I moved here, and East Texas is kind of like that. It's a lot more pine, piney woods, and then the soil's kind of sandy, and you can't really do a lot with food plots in some areas because of that. And the mosquitoes here are like, oh my God, I thought we had mosquitoes, where I grew up, and then here it's a whole different level, man. But as I started like branching out and hunting in different parts of Texas, I was, not long after moving here, I was able to go on a hunt just north of San Antonio, and that's when it kind of got into the hill country a little bit, and I saw, the rocks, the cactus, like all these different things. And then when we went on a ram hunt a couple of years ago over in, I guess that was South Texas. It was way past.
That's considered it's west. I mean, it's northwest of San Antonio.
Yeah, so around the Kerrville area.
Yeah, Rock Springs.
Rock Springs.
Right. Around that area.
Yeah. So, but that terrain's like really rugged too.
Yes, yeah, a lot of rocks.
A lot of rocks, and then I remember when we were, trying to set up on these rams, you start out kind of in a valley, and then you see the rams over here, but you got to go up.
Yep.
And over and down to kind of cut them off, where they're going. So I remember like straight out of the gate, I was like, my gosh.
Oh yeah.
I should have trained for this.
I almost died the first time I went out there.
Yeah, but on that hunt, luckily we all came back with, with trophies from that. So that was a good experience.
Yep. Yeah, that was awesome. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, cool, man. So now we'll switch from talking about arrows. You got some interesting buck stories. I was fortunate enough to be able to hunt with you in Indiana a couple of different times. Last year we were on a hunt prime time during the rut together. And I love hunting up there because we're able to use decoys and the deer respond to calling and rattling.
Yep.
And like, it's such a cool experience. And I haven't had that in very many other places.
Right.
You know, definitely didn't have it where I grew up and kind of where I started to learn hunting. If you like rattled or called at a deer where I'm from, you know, they would spook. And run off.
Yep.
Yeah, because they're probably being hunted all the time.
Right.
But we made this plan to set up with a decoy, and then we had some deer moving, and then, you know, you had a pretty interesting experience. So why don't you set up the story here and tell us,
for sure,
kind of how all this goes.
You're not going to come out so good on this story, but that's all right. It was worth it, though.
It was worth it.
So I've never hunted with a decoy before, ever. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a long time, too. I mean, 15 years, you know, it's a good amount of time, right? Mm-hmm. But I just never hunted with a decoy. I've always, you know, when we go to Indiana every year, I mean, it's just, you got to be at the right place at the right time. It's one of those things where, you know, if you can rattle one in or grunt one in or whatever, you know, you get lucky, you know, and you know, it's like I say, bow hunting there's a lot of luck involved, right? So first year ever hunting with a decoy, you know, you took a decoy, you know, from one of your friends, mm-hmm. and you used it a couple times, and then I used it one time at the 350 mm-hmm. ranch, and in an open field. So I was hunting out of a tree stand, mm-hmm. so no issues there. You know, it was windy that day. I had to climb down a couple times because it kept tipping over.
Yeah,
I remember that. But I mean, we didn't have much action that day, so we decided to hunt a different property the next day. And in that morning, you went out and you hunted out of an elevated blind, pop-up blind, mm-hmm. elevated like 6 feet or something like that. And I don't know if it was radish that was in that field. I don't remember what was planted there.
It's a bunch of clover.
It was clover.
It's
okay.
Really, really pretty green field with
yeah,
clover.
Yeah, it was
in
clover that year. He does clover. He does radish. I couldn't remember what it was.
It was clover.
But it was in the morning. No, that was an afternoon hunt.
Yeah. So
it was an afternoon hunt.
The morning I was there, and I don't think I had the decoy.
No.
I think I just sat up in the pop-up blind, and about 100 yards straight in front of the blind to the left, there was this kind of little bottleneck. So the field's kind of shaped like a, you know, it's not a square, it's not a circle. It had this part in the middle that was only like 30 yards wide. And then that part too kind of had a little dip in it. Mm-hmm. And so naturally, and it went into a draw that went down into like hardwood bottom and all this other stuff. So
and it's deep down in there.
It's really deep. And so big pine thicket on the left. And so that's where the deer, I saw this buck come out there, and he was a dandy. And so he came out, and I'm like, you know, rattling, trying to get him to turn or whatever, and I couldn't do it.
Right.
And we had pictures of nice bucks and a lot of deer kind of traveling through the same area. And so I remember coming back and saying, hey, man, you should probably go back.
Well, you hunted there with the decoy the afternoon. Remember, you went in the morning without the decoy, mm-hmm. and that afternoon you went back to that same field.
Yeah.
And you hunted with a decoy. So you set up your decoy and everything. And then we talked before we got out of I was in a tree stand close by, and we talked about it on text. It's like, you know what? Mm-hmm. He goes, you know, maybe we'll hunt this area again tomorrow. Yeah. There's a lot of movement. You know, and he goes, I'm going to grab the decoy, he told me, and I'm going to put it underneath the stand. Mm-hmm. That way I don't have to carry it out and bring it back in. I said, leave the stake in there. I said, I'll hunt that in the morning. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, cool. I'll go. You know, you went to the chuck stand, I believe, that morning. So we go in, it's dark. You know, I go and I find the decoy underneath, you know, missing antlers or whatever. But I was able to carry it out. I'm looking for the stake that's already on the ground that you had set up, and I'm looking.
In clover.
In the clover. I find it. I set them up and everything. Find the antlers, put them on. I get up in the box blind, and it's still dark. Usually when I get up in a stand or in a tree stand or a box blind, or whatever, you know, once daybreak or whatever, I draw my bow back, make sure I'm clear with everything, you know, and I usually do that 99% of the time, you know. I try to do it every time, but so sun starts coming out, and I was thinking, okay, I need to make sure I can draw my bow and this and that. And it's a good size pop up, mm-hmm. But anyways, out of the corner of my eye, I see a big buck, about 250 yards to my left, out in the, walking across the field, mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't even have time to do that. So I just grabbed my grunt and grunted one time and stopped him, and I'm like, okay. He's interested, right? He's looking straight at at the decoy, and the decoy's facing the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't think it was the wrong direction. I've never hunted with a decoy before. I faced him. I put him facing towards the field. Opposite the field.
Yeah.
So he's into the woods, right? And I was like, okay, is he coming or not? And I did a long grunt again, whoop, and then there he comes. I mean, his back's furred up, bulky up, and I said, oh, here he's coming. I mean, it felt like it took like 10 seconds for him to get there, which was a lot longer than that. So I grabbed my bow, and I said, okay, when he gets to about 15 yards, I'm going to draw, right? So he gets to around 15 yards, I draw my bow, and I look, I can't even see the decoy because it was too close to the stand. Oh. So I'm like, where's the decoy, So by that time, he's coming in closer and closer, and I stand up, try to squat, and I'm grunting at him, trying to stop him. He's not stopping. So I'm at full draw. I can't shoot him, and he just tackles from the side, tackles the decoy.
He T-boned the decoy.
T-boned him, and I let off, and he takes off running, and I grabbed my grunt, and I grunted real hard, and I stopped him at the end of the field.
Yeah.
And it was like about 40 yards, and I had my pin, set up at 20 yards, right? I hadn't moved it because I didn't even have a chance to see how far the decoy was, right?
Yeah.
So I just drew back, and I said, I'm thinking 35 yards. So I'm looking at my second pin, and as soon as I drew back, he takes off. I was like, oh, done deal, man. I was upset, because of what happened. But at the same time, I mean, my adrenaline was going crazy. I mean, I've never experienced that before.
Yeah.
It was the best hunting experience I've ever had without shooting.
Yeah.
I guess you could say, but it was just an awesome experience.
Yeah.
I mean, never. I've called in deer with a grunt before or rattled them, but never like that where I was like, it was my mistake for not knowing how far the deer was, at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And of course, after he was gone, I was like, well, I mean, what am I going to do? Go outside and move him?
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to be able to stand up next time. But anyways, yeah, I mean, it was an awesome experience. I texted you and I told you, man, dude, a big old stud just came by and,
Why didn't you shoot him?
Yeah. What happened? Did you get him? I was like, I didn't even get to shoot, man. It's like, all right. And I know you told me, he goes, oh, I like him up close and personal. And I was like, that was a little too close.
That was way too close.
Yeah.
Man.
But, it happens. You learn by your mistakes. It was I'm telling you, it was a great experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have a chance to, it was too dark.
Yeah.
Didn't know. I don't even know where the decoy was at. Finally, after I sat down and started looking at it afterwards, after it happened, I'm looking at the decoy laying in the field.
Too close.
Like, man, that should have been the deer.
Man, I was sold on a decoy at the same place, or the same area. I should say in Indiana, and it was a Stan Smith decoy, or Dave Smith decoy, like super realistic. The first time I saw this, I was like, wow. But that was the one that I first used, and it was on the 350 field edge, and the decoy was just set up, and it was just there. Like I had grunted and rattled a little bit. I got out in the stand early one afternoon or one evening, and it was hot. The sun was right in my face, and so I grunted and rattled a bit and kind of made some racket, and nothing was really happening. And so I was just kind of sitting there. And if I get bored, I have a bad habit, man, of getting on my phone and scrolling the internet or looking, at stupid stuff. And so I was sitting in the stand, and I looked up in time to see a buck bristled up, walking face to face in with a decoy. And it was a ladder stand. I hate hunting out of ladder stands, man. Especially when the way that this one was set up, it was like straight away. And so you would have to kind of turn this way and then try to draw back. And then there's a tree
back there
right here behind you. And so I was trying to get position to draw back and do all this a little too late. And by the time I did it, that buck had gotten so close to the decoy that he actually bumped it, smelled it. And when he smelled it, he took off. But that was the moment I was sold on decoy. Yep. I was like, that deer came from somewhere. And it wasn't like this was just like a little patch of 10-yard hole and there's just crap everywhere. This is a wide open field.
Yep.
And he just popped out of an edge somewhere and came across and then, nosed up to him. And so that's when I'm like, all right, I'm sold on decoys now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every time I hunt in the Midwest, I'll probably have one with me in the rut. Like
Yeah,
if it's
yeah.
pre-rut or post-rut or whatever, I don't think it'll probably be that effective, but definitely works up there.
Oh, it does. It does. I've seen it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen it.
But the buck that you missed in that spot, like we had an adventurous week that week. I ended up going back to that pinch point in that funnel that I told you about, and I thought to myself, I'm going to set up right here. There's this goofy looking tree that has enough height and area that I can get in it. It had a V in it. And I climbed up in it with my saddle, and I was set up like right in that V, where it was like from probably my mid torso up. I could see, and I, had plenty of room to draw and everything. And I'm like, this is going to be epic. And I could see, like, once I got up in there and looked down into the pine thicket where that trail was coming out, I could actually see the trail, and I could see like rubs on the trees where they had been coming in and out. So I'm like, oh, this is money.
Yeah.
And it was cold. Like it'd been, like I think a front was coming in. It was supposed to rain or everything. So it was like getting nasty. And I'm like, this is going to be money. The deer going to be moving. And so I'm like sitting up in the tree, halfway freezing, and I'm like trying to look around and everything. And then I look over to my left, back to where the blind that you were in was, and there's a buck. And I turn around and I look at enough time for him to look at me. And I guess he caught the movement and skylined me, but he saw me, and then he just whoop and trotted off. And I remember thinking,
If I was in that pop-up.
if I was in the pop-up, I would have shot that deer.
Oh, yeah.
But if I was in the pop-up, he would have came out where I was set up in the saddle.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
It always happens, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But you have another buck story that was probably one of the coolest ones that I've heard from your experience in Kansas.
Yep.
So I haven't had the privilege of hunting in Kansas. I want to. It's definitely on my list, and I'll probably try to apply for a tag next year and figure out how I'm going to do that. But you had worked out a place to go. Definitely had some deer. You had a good setup, and then why don't you set that one up?
Yeah. First time ever hunting in Kansas a couple years ago, and Jared was in Kansas the week before that. Mm-hmm. He hunted hard.
I remember this
all week. Hunted hard.
Yeah.
He took his own stand and hung a stand every time he hunted, morning, afternoon, 5 days.
Yeah.
And he saw a monster buck out there, but he just didn't get an opportunity to shoot. So he came back home. When he came back a day later, I took off to Kansas, hunt the same properties. I hunted with a friend of mine out there, and I got there on Friday, I believe it was Friday night. So my first hunt was Saturday morning. He took me to this place, to the stand. It's a ladder stand. Very difficult to hunt out of because you're facing straight and you have to hunt this way. Mm. I mean, there's a chance to shoot this way, but the wind was blowing that way. I was like, I'm not going to get nothing that way.
Right.
So I'm shooting towards you can feed in Kansas, so there was a feeder on this side, and I was like, man, I don't know how I'm going to do this. It was very difficult, and it was a one person a ladder stand.
Yeah.
So I'm drawing back, and I was like, man, this is going to be hard for me to shoot from here, but I think I can make it work. But just, I saw a couple little spikes and some does and a couple of fawns and stuff like that. So, nothing to write home about, but it was nice. I got to see some action, some deer moving and this and that and the other. So go back to the house and we're hanging out and this and that. And he drives me to another property. This friend of mine, he says, this is where I want you to hunt today. And he parks in the field. We didn't go in or nothing. He's just, you're going to walk down about 250 yards and there's another ladder stand. And I was like, you don't have another stand, another hang on? And I didn't take my saddle with me, and he's like, no, that's all I have over there. I was like, all right, I'll make it work. He goes, oh, it's a good spot. It's wide open. You can shoot any direction from that ladder stand. I said, all right, fine. So we go back to the house. I know where I'm sitting. I mark it on, on my Onyx app and said, all right, I know where to park. I know where it's at. And he had them all marked as well. So we go back home and we're just chilling out and this and that. And we're talking. And I look at my watch. I was like, dude, I need to get going. He's like, oh, man, yeah, you need to go. So I jump in, take off, and I get dressed out in the field, and I walk to the stand, find the stand, get up in the stand, and I set up and everything, and it's after the rut, just rut had just at the tail end of the rut. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, no bleeping, no grunting, just rattle. Mm-hmm. So that's all I'm gonna do. And I grabbed my rattles and start rattling, put them down. Waited about 15 minutes, and that's how long I've been on the stand. And I'm looking around, nothing. I grab my rattle again, I put him down, and out of the corner of my eye, left eye, here comes a buck. I mean, coming right up the hill, through the woods and the brush. I mean, fast. Grab my bow. He starts slowing down. He's looking, keeps walking forward through the trees, and I draw. As soon as he got behind the tree, I drew back and smoked him. 17 yards.
Wow.
Yeah, 17 yards from the top of the tree. He ran around me like this, fell down about 10 yards behind me. Yeah. He probably ran the total yard, maybe 25 yards.
Yeah.
And that's where the Schwacker man
Schwacker
made a hole like this.
Yeah.
And went up behind me, and I was like, my buddy's at home cooking dinner.
Yeah.
I sent him an email. I said, hey, man, buck is down. And he's like, dude, you just got there. 30 minutes it took from the time I got up on my second sit.
Yeah.
30 minutes. I texted Jared, and Jared's like, you son of a...
Yeah.
I hunted all week. And I said, you're on your second sit, 30 minutes in. You're done. I was like...
I think you texted me, and you were like, yeah, I'm about to go out. And then you texted me, like, buck down. I was like, what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a quick...
Yeah.
The fastest I've ever been on a tree and a buck comes out that I shot.
Yeah.
And the closest,
Definitely odd for bow hunting, man.
Yeah, it was like, right place, right time. It wasn't the monster buck that Jared saw.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was an old timer, probably about 5-year-old, 5x5, big freaking G2s.
Yeah, a nice deer,
huge,
man. Yeah, big
real
deer.
nice deer. But the funny part is that my buddy has a trail cam in there. Cellular trail cam. He sends me a quote. He goes, dude, a text. He says, I got you on camera at full draw. I'm like, what are you talking about? He had another camera by the corn out in the field. And I was like, that didn't catch me. It's facing the wrong direction. He goes, oh man, I have a trail cam in there, cellular trail cam. He says, I got you at full draw when that deer passed behind the tree. He said, it took a snapshot and you're at full draw already. I was like, oh, so I have that picture, man.
That's a cool picture.
Yeah, it was
I remember
a real
you
cool
texted
picture.
me that, and I was like, dude, that's like the moon and stars have to align
Oh,
for
yeah.
a trail picture to show, the deer and then the hunter in the tree behind it at full draw.
Yep.
So,
He walked right behind that. Well, he was in front of the camera and the tree was, on the other side of him, but he walked right there and I'm at full draw on the tree up on top. And he stepped about 3 more steps. I stopped him and smoked him right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was an
cool
awesome
story,
experience.
man.
I mean, I was driving back home on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I had the whole week. I took the whole week off to be out there to hunt, but it's a one buck,
Just sleep in, watch some Netflix.
Yeah, we went, we ate, and just hung out. Next day, dropped them off at the guy that does, at the taxidermist, and packed the meat and ice and drove home, man. Straight to the processor. So,
dude, I haven't had a trip like that yet, but I'm ready for it. I'm ready to show up at a place on like a 5 or 7 day hunt, and then like tag out on day 1 or day 2 and just sleep late the rest of the time and be a cook.
And the weird thing about that day is it was hot. For hunting season in Kansas, it was like in the low 60s, which I was like, man. And then that morning was in the 30s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that afternoon hunt was like, man, it's going to be hot. As soon as I had a jacket on, I took that off before I even got in the tree. And I was like, it's going to be a hot day. Yeah. And that buck came out 30 minutes later. So that was awesome. Yeah.
I think you talked him into it with the rattling horns.
Yeah, he was interested. He wanted to fight. And he had scars on his face. So he had been fighting. So
he'd been beating up everybody in the neighborhood.
Yeah, he wasn't the big one. Hey man, I'm not one to go out there and it has to be 160 inch or whatever. If it's a big old buck,
I think most of your like true woodsmen, especially guys in our stage of life and maybe a little bit older, I think we're probably more about the experience and more about the passion for just the situation of being there.
Oh yeah.
The travel, the time with your friends, the being out in nature, like all these things coming together. Like, don't get me wrong, I would love to show success in a nice deer,
right?
For the efforts of my labor, but I'm not disappointed at all. If I shoot a deer or a nice deer,
right?
To my standards, it doesn't have I haven't measured any of the deer that I've killed.
Right. Yeah.
None of them. I've scored none of them. I probably never will.
Right.
So it's just not important to me anymore. I'm more about hanging out with my friends and doing things like this and just being able to try new things and hunt in new states and travel and adventure hunt and like all these different things.
The experience is my favorite thing, being able to experience things that, not a lot of people get to experience,
Yeah.
So, for example, like I'm going to share the first buck I ever shot, it's in Indiana as well. Well, so let me go back a little bit. Every time I go to Indiana, the first time I went to Indiana, I'm a Texas boy, where I grew up hunting, rifle hunting or whatever, you have restrictions, right? 13-inch spread or whatever. There's some counties that don't have them, but most of the places that I've hunted here in Texas, they all have antler restrictions and this and that and the other.
Yeah. So for the people that are listening, it's a quick reference is that it's a 13-inch spread.
13-inch.
And the horns are usually like the width of the ears.
Right.
If the ears are out.
Right. That's a good guide to go by.
Yeah.
So I go to Indiana my first year. They put me out by myself, never talked to, Chuck. I never asked him. He never told me. Go hunting. My first hunt, actually, he was going to go hunting that evening, and his wife had something that they had to do together. So he was going to film for the show. So he had the camera guy says, you know what, why don't you take David and film David? So, all right, cool. So we went out to Circle Field at Sowers, it wasn't Sowers.
Sawmill.
That's a sawmill in Indiana. And Circle Field, and it had back then we used to hunt on the east side of the property. They had a tree stand, 20 feet up with a camera stand as well. So he climbs up and everything. We're up there. And Chuck sends him a text, and says, hey, man, just this first time out there, hopefully you get a good buck, this and that and the other. It's been a lot of action on the cameras, with some nice bucks coming through there. So we're hunting and this and that. And then Mike Vanez, he's the cameraman at the time. Here comes a buck. He goes, David, here comes a nice buck. And I'm looking at it and I was like, he's too small. He's tall, but he's not wide. But he's mature buck. Yeah. And he's like, no. He's telling me, that's a good buck. Shoot that buck. And I'm like, Mike, he's too small. And he's looking at me like, dude, that's a good first buck. This is my very first time hunting with a bow in a tree stand,
right.
in Indiana, and I'm like, we went back and forth maybe 4 times.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's too small. He says, trust me. He's telling me, trust me, shoot that buck. Okay. So you want me to shoot him? I shoot him. He goes, shoot him. So I drew back. He was 35 yards. I drew back and he got behind a tree. So I had no shot and I'm waiting. He goes, wait. I said, I have no shot. So I had to let off. I let off and he stays behind the tree. He's chasing does. Stays behind the tree, stays, and then he takes off. Never gave me a shot because he was behind trees and branches. I was like, all right, well, it is what it is. I didn't want to shoot him anyways because he's too small.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the show. Another way you can support us is to visit our website at www.americanarcheryandbowhunting.com. On our website, you'll find blog posts, link to our social media and podcast. You'll also find some really cool merch like this American Archery and Bow Hunting t-shirt. We also have caps, mugs, and different types of merchandise we'll be adding along the way. So go check us out at www.americanarcheryandbowhunting.com. Let's get back to the show.
So we would go back, we look at the video, and Chuck looks at the video. He's like, dude, why didn't you shoot that buck? He's like, he's too small. He said, if you would have shot him when he told you to shoot, I said, he's too small. All right. Okay, fine. David didn't want to shoot him. It was too small.
Yeah.
So, I didn't get to shoot. I shot a doe. You have a tag. I shot a doe that trip. And back then I was only going for 3 days. So second year comes around. I go back there again, and I'm at the Big Ten stand. Same property. And I'm setting up in the morning, early in the morning. I'm setting up, and I feel a deer walking under me. And it's like right before daybreak, so I stop. And you can just feel the deer coming through, walking through, goes through. I finish setting up and everything. I look back, and there's a buck back behind me about 100 yards out. Tall, big, mature, real thin. Like a basket, like that. And I was like, he walks back underneath me, 15 yards underneath me. I take a picture. And I send it to Chuck, and he's like, dude, why didn't you shoot that buck? And I was like, he's too small.
It's not legal.
Yeah, that's exactly. He goes, he's too small. So we go back, and he looks at the picture, and then Mike's there too. Dude, what's wrong with that buck? He's like, he's too small. He's not big enough. Dude, what are you trying to kill, a monster out here? He goes, no, doesn't it have to be 13-inch? He goes, Man, you're in Indiana. You can shoot whatever you want. I was like, well, thanks for telling me. The first 2 years I could have had a bug, my first 2 years out there. But anyways, funny, I just thought I'd share that because it's like my first two, that's why going to somewhere where you're not familiar with, you ask these questions. And I was a big, a rookie bow hunter. I didn't know. Yeah. I'm thinking, I'm still in Texas. He never told me. I never asked. So my first 2 years, I missed out on bucks out there. They were really nice bucks. So anyway, I stopped flying over there because of carrying the bow, and a case. And they gave me they gave me a hard time at the airline because I had my bow case and I had clothes in it. And they're like, oh, this is only supposed to be for a weapon. Take your clothes out. I was like, I got nowhere else to put it. Yeah. It's 50 pounds is 50 pounds. But anyway, so I decided, you know what? I'm going to drive from now on. It's a 14 and a half hour drive. I stop halfway, drive about 8-9 hours, and then do the rest. And so anyways, I go up there by myself when you're nobody in the cabin. I'm by myself in Indiana. People were leaving when I got there. That's Saturday. I got there Saturday morning. I hunted Saturday afternoon. And then in the morning, Chuck likes to get there early. So he gets up early. I'm already fixing to get ready. And he's like, man, he said, there's a big ice storm coming. It's going to come through around 9 a.m. I'm like, dude, I am not going to hunt in that stuff. He goes, especially not at a tree stand. He says, it's very dangerous, He goes, well, it's up to you, man. He goes, no. I said, I don't think I'm going to hunt this morning. He goes, it's up to you, man. I'm going to church. He goes, all right, man. Just, you know what? Go ahead and, do your thing. I mean, maybe this afternoon I'll hunt. And then he leaves, and then I send him a text. I said, you know what, dude? I'm going to hunt, man. I came to hunt. Where can I hunt? I said, go to the circle field. There's a pop-up, that circle field. Let's go there. You can hunt there. I said, all right, cool. So I go in, I go in and park my truck, walk in the field, get in, still early, still dark, set up and everything. It was cold that morning. It was ice everywhere. And then sure enough, here comes the storm. Goes through, just throwing ice all over the place. And I'm like, it wasn't as bad as they said it was going to be. And it's probably around 9:30 in the morning already. Yeah. And I hear bucks fighting. And there's some does bedded at the end of the field. And that circle field at the end of the field, it's like about 65 yards. Yep. And right at the end, I'm watching, and there's some does bedded in there. And here comes a little buck, goes straight where the doe's at. They pay no attention to him. And then I hear some bucks fighting. So I'm like, oh man, I text Chuck. I said, dude, there's some bucks fighting. He's like, again, I'm fairly new at this, right?
You gonna shoot him, David?
He goes, wait till they stop rattling or stop fighting, and then rattle. Yeah. Don't grunt. Don't do anything else. Just rattle. Yeah. So they stop. And I'm like, let's stop. And I start freaking going after it on their horns, right? And 5 minutes later, here he comes, man. Freaking big old stud coming out across the field like they're going straight to the does. Right, comes across like this, and I'm like, okay, I'm ranging him. He's 55, 56 yards. I set up my thing, and I said, okay. And he keeps going, and I'm hunting out of these stupid little University of Indiana folding chair things. You know what I'm talking about, those beach chairs or whatever. Yeah. That's what he had in there. So I draw back, and I stopped him at the edge of the field, and I'm thinking he's 60 yards. So I aim a little bit higher, and I freaking let it fly. He's quartered a little bit away from me, and I smoked him, man.
Got him.
At 58 yards, smoked him. He took off. He ran like 50 yards, and you put him down. I'd send a text to Chuck. I said, big bug down, man. Yeah. He's like, what? He goes, I'm driving to church. And in the background, the wife is like, are you kidding me, David? Are you seriously just shot? We're on our way to church.
Messed up the Sunday morning.
Yeah, so Chuck texts one of his buddies. He goes, hey, man, go help him out. He goes, don't do anything. Wait about 15 minutes and then go look at the arrow and see what you find. I went and grabbed the arrow, man. It was covered with blood. Yeah. And that buck emptied out, man. Chuck came and we went to go look for that buck, and there was blood everywhere.
Crime scene.
Everywhere. Chuck's like, dude, I've never seen.
Schwacker again?
It was a Schwacker.
There you go.
He says, never seen this before. Never. And we walked, and there was a little stream that went. The stream was covered in blood. Yeah. And there he was on the other side. It was about 60 yards. Yeah. From where I shot him. That was my biggest 7.5-year-old buck. Yeah. Biggest buck I've ever shot, and didn't score him. The mass on that thing was huge, man. It's like, and my wife. This is a story I have to tell you. My wife's like, well, what are you going to do with him? I said, I'm going to mount him. That's my first buck. My first buck ever with a bow. And she's like, all right, so well, when you go hunting from now on, the deal is that unless you shoot something bigger than that, you're not getting it mounted. And I'm like, okay, that's the deal. I was like, I ain't listening. I'm not listening to that. I've never. That's
set
like
the bar high,
to me
man.
that was a buck of a lifetime. It was
Yeah.
probably a 160,
Yeah.
which I mean that's great. That's a great deer,
fantastic deer, man. Yeah.
But I'm still gonna keep mounting them if I can.
Yeah.
I know my wife doesn't like it, but that's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't get into much opportunity to shoot big bucks like that, especially here in Texas.
No.
So I mean, they're big bucks in Texas, but where we hunt, we just, they're far and few in between. So if I get a chance to mount one, it's going on the wall.
Well, man, we got this new place this year. Hopefully, we can catch a roamer or two. I mean, the couple of bucks that we have on our place now from the trail cameras are not bad.
Yep.
That's kind of what I'm used to shooting where I'm from growing up.
Those are good bucks for the area that we're hunting at this
Yeah.
year. I mean, those are really good bucks.
Yeah, one of them's a dandy.
One of them's a really good buck. Yeah.
I tell you what, I hope happens, David. I hope that we get into like when they split up, and they start fighting, and then pre-rut, and they start moving around and roaming. I'm hoping that we get somebody new, a buck from a neighbor property or one that's out of the area or
it
whatever.
could be, man. You get some hot does in there. Somebody's gonna come in.
We got does.
Yeah, we got a lot of does.
We got to figure that out. How we're going to manage that.
We got some big body does.
Yeah.
For Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a pecan farm. There is corn around there. We're feeding protein and corn and stuff. I mean, there's some good sized body does out there.
Yeah.
And even that buck that we're talking about, that's a good sized buck.
Yeah, I'd be tickled to death to have that one.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, the biggest deer I ever killed was the year after you killed your deer in the same spot. Same spot.
Yep.
So mine was a morning hunt, and it wasn't terribly cold. It was cold enough. The wind was blowing straight back towards the highway, and so I was in they had replaced a pop-up on a platform with like this fiberglass blind. It's a rifle blind, really. It has all the windows that come down. I can't remember the name of it, the brand of the blind. It's not a bad blind. It's just hard for
it's a rifle blind,
a compound bow. And so anyway, I'm sitting up in here, and dude, I'd been there all week already hunting hard. Like, I didn't have a saddle then. I think I had a climbing stand, and I think I'd taken like a real light lock on, and I was like trying to move around and trying to hunt places and like hunting hard. And I'd seen some deer and saw the biggest deer I've ever seen in my entire life, and actually got it on film. Didn't get a chance to shoot it though. But anyway, I'm in the blind, and I see this little bitty doe like walk out and then kind of get a 45-degree angle, walk straight towards me, and then go in the woods just to my right about 15, 20 yards away. And they were harvesting the corn at this time. And so Chuck told me, he was like, you should probably go there because they're cutting the corn in the field above that place. There's a big ag field, cornfield right there, and then that bottom, where that stream is, and it's a big bedding area, and then there's a circle plot. And so I'm sitting there, and again, if there's nothing happening, like I got ADD, so I'm looking around, looking at my phone, all this other stuff. I don't really have ADD, I don't think, but I get bored. I start, I need to start leaving my phone in my truck.
I know, man. That phone, man, is a distraction.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm just sitting in a chair kind of like this, like you said, a bag chair or whatever it was in there. It wasn't the most comfortable thing. And so I'm sitting there, and I look up, and I see him walk, like I see his horns and his rack coming through, like there's grass and just sage stuff about this tall, and I see his rack coming through that stuff, and I'm like, ugh. And so he's coming straight at me, the same trail that little doe followed. And so I grab my rangefinder, and I'm like trying to keep myself together and not completely wig out. And so I get a range on him, and then I like go to the part of the field where that doe had kind of turned and quartered, and immediately I thought, okay, he's following that doe's trail. That doe's hot, And so I ranged to where that was, and it was like 40 yards. And so I'm ranging, trying to put a game plan together, and all this. It's a miracle that I was able to pull this off, man, because I was like, seriously, when I get buck fever, man, like I physically shake. Like I get the yips, something awful. And so it's amazing that didn't happen to me then. I guess there was so much going on, and I was trying to like go from one thing to the next. I didn't really have time to kind of wig out, because I've gotten buck fever before when a doe came out.
Right.
Like I knew it was there, and I just just got all worked up.
Adrenaline just goes crazy.
Yeah, just huge adrenaline dump. So anyway, I made this quick decision. I'm like, he gets there, I'm gonna shoot. Boom, boom, boom. He follows the script, gets right there, boom, shot him. Wheels around, runs off back in towards the stream, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm thinking to myself, oh my God. Like that's when the adrenaline dump happened. And like I'm starting to text everybody and texting Chuck, and he's like, did you hit him? I'm like, I think so. Yeah. So I get out I wait like 30, 45 minutes. No, this wasn't in the morning, it was in the evening. This is where the story gets funny. So this was in the evening. So I'm waiting, 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. Because I was like, if I didn't hit this deer good, and he's like right inside the wood line, I don't want to bump him. Huge deer. Like, I don't want to blow this. And so I go look at the arrow and I pick it up. It's got blood on it. I'm like, okay, I made a decent hit. Got passed through. Things are looking good. And so call Chuck. He was like, wait, I'll come help you find it. Called the other two guys that were with me, Rusty and Craig, my other two friends that I hunt with up there. And everybody's coming to help me look for this buck. So in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, hit him good. He's going to be over here. Like, life is good. And so we get the arrow and we find a little bit of blood. Again, fixed blade versus mechanical versus all these different things. Yeah. This was another instance of that. Not a lot of blood. So we're finding a drop here. And then we go a little bit and somebody says, oh, I got one over here and I got one over here. And so we were looking for this deer for probably 30 minutes, man. And like my heart is starting to sink.
Yeah.
In the back of my mind, I'm thinking this deer has ran off. Like if I lose this deer, I'm going to quit bow hunting and pick up golf or something else. Like I was like mentally going downhill. And so we're looking around and we're backtracking now. Like we found the last bit of blood and put an arrow there with a lighted knock, and then we're going here and then backtracking, and like blood trail ran out. And so everybody's looking, and then Chuck goes, we should probably just back out of here and come back in the morning. And I can remember like looking, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like I just want to stay out here and keep looking for this deer. But I'd already like kind of started preparing myself, like I may not recover this deer. And so Rusty and Craig were like, oh well, and then Chuck goes, or we can get down to the creek and find him. He's right here.
Yeah, typical Chuck, right?
He did me dirty, man.
Oh my goodness.
So that deer ran, not a whole lot of blood, but it ran through that little bedding area and then jumped off in that creek and died in that creek. And he was just like right there.
Yep.
He was probably, 60, 70 yards away. And like, there was not a ton of blood. But that's the thing that Chuck is so good at, is like, if he has like a little bit of blood, like a general direction, he'll start looking for like dirt that's disturbed or something that's broken, like limbs or whatever. And like, I've never seen him not recover an animal.
He's been doing it a long time.
Long time.
He's recovered a lot of deers.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Tell that story about that. One was that story about that I never knew about when you shot that doe. It fell down all the way down to the gully.
Oh yeah.
And we didn't have anything long enough to get it out, to get her out. And he took his jacket off and he covered the doe with a jacket.
Yeah, that's a cool story.
I never knew that.
I didn't either. And I like, again, I'm no expert, but in my mind I'm thinking, man, Cody's gonna eat this thing up. So it was with the heavy arrow that I told you about, like that big old heavy arrow I saw at Pinwheel. That was the doe that I shot.
Yep.
And then it ran out of the corner of that field, and there's a huge drop off and a big bottom in that field that's super deep. It's probably, I would say, a sheer drop off of like 50 yards.
Oh yeah, easy, yeah.
And it's like, not easy to get up and down. And so I heard like crash, and so I thought, okay, well the deer's down. but again, not a lot of blood. And so I look at the arrow, I look at the field and everything else, and talk to Chuck, and he's like, "You got a blood trail?" I'm like, "Not really, man." And he was like, "Well, don't go up in there." He's like, "Just wait. I'll come out there, I'll help you look for it." So I'm hanging out. He rolls up. I see the headlamp coming across the field, and I'm like, "All right, here comes the cavalry." So I'm standing there with my arrow in the thing with the light and knock. He's like, "You shoot it right here?" I'm like, "Yeah." So he's like looking around. He goes straight into the woods. He's like, "I got blood over here," like just that quick.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
he knows where they run, man.
I'm such a dummy.
Yeah.
And so I'm following behind him, and he's like, "Oh yeah," and you could see where the doe hit the side of a tree, and like that's when like some of the blood, I guess, splattered out of the wound or whatever. And then it went another 10, 15 yards and hit another tree, and then it went off of that gully. And so we got to the first tree, we got to the second tree, and then he turned right, and he shined a light down the gully. He saw the white belly. He's like, "There she is right there." And I was like, "Good God, man, that's a cliff face." And he's like, "All right." He's like, "We can't get this deer out of here tonight." He's like, "We're going to have to leave it. We'll come back in the morning and get it." It was cold. I'm not worried about the meat spoiling, but I'm like, dude, coyotes are going to eat this thing. Pick it clean. And so we climbed down there, and he's wearing a big, heavy hunting element jacket. And he takes his jacket off and lays it over the deer. And I'm thinking to myself, not only the coyote's going to eat this deer, they're going to tear up your jacket, or it's going to be gone in the woods. And he's like, "I'm going to leave my jacket on this deer, and then nothing's going to mess with it." And I'm like, what kind of voodoo nonsense is this, right? And so anyway, we go back to the cabin, eat supper, go to bed, whatever, get up in the next morning. I didn't hunt because we were, he had to go get a side-by-side and a bunch of rope and stuff to retrieve this deer. And so on the way out there, I'm thinking to myself, we finna see a carcass, we finna see something eat up. Nope. Go to the cliff edge, and I look down there.
There's his jacket.
There it is with the jacket on. I was like, you got to be kidding me, man.
Though it was warm all night.
The human scent, even if they did come near it, I guess that scares them off or whatever. But, dude, you talk about a job getting that deer out of that gully.
Yeah.
God, so he ran.
I remember.
The side-by-side he has, super nice side-by-side with a winch on it, but the winch cable only went out so far. So we had this, like a whole bunch of rope, and I'm down there, and we did like this rigging job to like tie to the deer's legs and then double back up to the winch, and they would winch it up some, and then I would shorten the rope and then winch it up some and shorten the rope. And man, it took us like an hour to get that thing out of that gully. And then when we got it out of the gully, we then had to take the side-by-side and get it out of because it's like thick woods.
Yeah, very thick. Yeah.
And so he was getting in there, like snaking it all in there, and we finally got it where he could get to the edge and run the winch cable down. And it's like, my gosh, man, best deer meat I ever ate, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because I worked so hard for it.
I know, right? Makes it all worth it.
But always good.
That was good, man.
Always good to talk hunting.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be plenty more opportunities for us to record more podcasts together.
I'm hoping we get some from this hunting season coming up.
We definitely will. We got
That'd be nice.
2 weeks? It
3
opens
weeks
here in Texas on the 27th, so right around the corner.
Yeah.
And then we got nearly every camera we have out there have animals on it, either pigs or deer. So
I'm looking forward to it. I know one of us or all of us are going to have a good hunting season this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. Appreciate it very much.
Man.
See you on the next one.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining the podcast. And don't forget, if you haven't already, make sure to go follow us on social media. We can be found on YouTube at American Archery and Bow Hunting, as well as Instagram and TikTok. Also, if you've enjoyed the podcast, please don't forget to leave us a rating and drop a comment in the episode. Thanks, and see you next time.